The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
This is episode number 59, and it is 103 days till the man burns as of this recording. So on episode 57, that was the cheesy porn camp profile where everybody talked over each other for like an hour. We had an exchange where we were trying to figure out if you need to have a permit to serve food on Playa. So Scott from Milwaukee tweeted me to say, Nevada, this is his tweet, Nevada food permits required for camps that serve food to more than X people. I thought that X was a 10, but he doesn't know what the number is. Don't know what the number is. Even fruit in drinks is, quote, food. I looked up the number, Scott, and it's 125, by the way. Like, there's actually a blog post about it over at burningman.org that explains all the little weird details about it. Governments, like, always come up with the weirdest fucking little compromise numbers. Okay, side vent here real quick. If I was a suicide bomber, this is exactly where I never trust that whole 72 virgins thing. Because 72 sounds like really, really specific if you think about it. Like the kind of compromise a bunch of assholes arguing with each other would come up with. You know, like, no, it should be 80 virgins. No, it should be 60. I don't know. Anyway, sorry for that extremely dark side note. Thank you, Scott, for chiming in on that. We really do welcome all your corrections. Not just you, Scott. I mean, like everybody. I've been pronouncing chakra correctly. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. I could be totally wrong. After we got that email from Meredith, who listened to the Tantra episode and had the correction to make about that. So I like these things. I like the peanut gallery. Shoot those things over. Speaking of our listeners, shout out to Rachel from Australia. I don't remember what what city she's in right now, but I know that both she and her partner are from Alice Springs, Australia, and they are working very hard to make it to their first burn this year. It was really heartwarming to hear from you and how much you guys are enjoying the show and all the great information that you've been getting out of it. You said it was great. I'm not saying it's great. I mean, the show could be shit, but we appreciate that you appreciate it. I know you guys have been dealing with some hardships and that you've already had some miracles happen. I know that you have your tickets. I know you're figuring out your living arrangements in Black Rock City. It would be absolutely glorious to exchange dusty hugs with you on Playa. So all of us here on the team are sending you love and hoping you are successful in manifesting your journey to the burn and all that other hippie crap. So let's get to today's show. As you regular listeners know, we are based in San Diego, California, in sunny Southern California. And San Diego has a poppin' burner community. There are usually tons of projects in various stages of production coming out of this region. Our community is so vibrant that it's fucking Tuesday night when I'm recording this right now. And I have 3 invites to burner parties featuring well-known burner DJs and poi and all that other stuff that most burners around the world have to wait all year to see. And I mean like tonight. There are 3 burner parties tonight on a fucking Tuesday. I don't mean I have the invites and I could go this weekend. It's tonight. Every weekend there's a mini festival happening somewhere within driving distance. I'm not telling you this just so I can shove it in your face, non-San Diego listeners. Though, yes, I pretty much do live in Burning Man on the beach with palm trees. I tell you this because I need you to understand that the wave of energy that is backing the art project we'll be discussing today is kind of a big fucking deal. San Diego has historically has had regional contributions that sit at the base of the man. Our camps have a legit presence on Playa. San Diego's a big burner city. And this year, the journey is pretty much the project coming out of San Diego. And I'm certain there are some other smaller projects in the works. I know that for a fact, actually. But nothing coming out of this region even compares to the scope and ambition of the journey. And when I say the journey, I'm talking about the project, the journey, not like just the hippie journey. Full disclosure, I am involved with the journey as well, as is half of San Diego. I was asked to take on the role of sound lead. I haven't done much yet, but I'm great at talking about it at parties. It's great in those situations. Also, I'm not sure how much it says about me as like half of San Diego is working on the journey as we speak. Executive producer Meg, whom you heard along with Kurt and Steph tell the story of their project not coming together the way that they had hoped on the We Failed at Arting episode. She was the first one to tell me about the pristine professional production line she'd been watching as the team building the journey moved into Collab's build space. Collab is, of course, San Diego's burner build and meeting hub. I'm just going to read this bit from the Journey's website for you so you get a kind of a snapshot. The installation is inspired by the double helix and is a mortise and tenon, those are words, I swear, structure made of wood. The dimensions are 42 feet in diameter, 10 feet tall, in the shape of a torus. The main structure creates an 8-foot interior corridor that circumnavigates an inner courtyard. The project is dynamically lit with interactive LED lights and includes other pre-programmed visual and audio workings. It's a pretty beautiful piece. This is me talking again. It interacts with art cars as they come near it. It will have touch panels so people can play with it. Each day of the week, the journey will be representing one of the chakras. It feels very alive. Whenever we talk about the journey, I feel like I'm talking about a living creature, not like this art piece. And so today we're going to chat with the lead artist, Dan Reeves, and project manager, Lee Hemingway. By the way, Lee Hemingway is his actual name. I'm so fucking jealous of that incredibly cool name. The first half of the interview will be about how they came into the community and the history that drives them. And I learned about Scruffer. It's kind of like Grindr. No, it's not like a Grindr at all. It's a gay dating app for I don't know, people with beards, I guess. Anyway, we'll be talking about that stuff. And then the second half of the episode, we're going to be really getting into the project geekery as we usually do. So we're definitely going to do a second episode about the journey after Burning Man this year. And you'll hear as you listen to this episode that the story is far from over and the journey is just going on like a real journey around a lot of different events and stuff. This is a very different project in that it's not just popping into Burning Man. A lot of projects seem to just do that, but this is like on tour. And I moved into a new place with two fucking awesome roommates. One is a miscreant. You've heard miscreants referenced many times on this show if you're not from San Diego. The other is a moon triber. And at one point, the miscreant comes stumbling in and, yeah, Little Bear, my dear, we are not editing you out. I'm absolutely keeping that part in there. So today's episode is entitled Enter the Journey. I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was a fly with the balls and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, because there ain't no one for the
certain that it was multiple orgasms.
Well, because, like, there was a good, like, your poor roommate.
Yeah, you. I think you might be getting used to it already. It's only been 5 minutes, but... I've been really fucking sleepy today, too. Like, all day. It's been coffee and then yerba mate. Yeah, there you go. You're shaking your yerba mate right now.
This is my cocaine.
Yerba mate is my anti-drug.
If it's sweetened, yeah. We could totally start a campaign around it. Today I've been like a bit of a zombie, and it's still like leftover for sure from Saturday, because like I got maybe 3 hours of sleep Saturday. I may have like laid down for like 6 hours, but maybe like 2 hours of that was actual sleep. And then so like today I had to go and make a few different stops for work related things, and I end up at Active in Mission Valley because I really wanted to go get those socks you kept telling me about.
The saguaro socks?
Yeah, they have like cactus socks.
Oh, yeah.
So I got a pair of cactus socks, and then I found that my debit card has stopped working because apparently it got like theft, like some sort of theft thing happened. So they had to cancel my my debit card number. So then my next stop was like in La Jolla, which is like, for listeners, it's like an expensiver part of town. And
wait, are we recording right now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. And then it's like I'm over there and like all I have is like some cash and like some change, and I realized I gotta buy lunch, but I spent like the last bit of money that I had on socks. So I'm like counting change.
I'll trade you these.
Yeah,
you're a little too old for that, but I'm really proud of you, and I'm really happy that I'm not the only one that still does that.
I'm like counting change at Whole Foods, and you guys know like La Jolla is like a richer area, so like they're looking at me like, oh, you're like a poor person,
and whole paycheck.
Trying to buy food at Whole Foods.
Whole paycheck.
It was kind of depressing.
Yeah,
a moment.
Yeah. Anyway, you guys have like an art project or something?
Yeah, that's going on.
Yeah. Anyway, the socks were really fucking cool though. So,
but they don't have these.
Oh my god, you have cock on your ankle.
I do. I have socks.
That's so great. My favorite was that flaming cock at Tomorrowland too.
Yeah, that was really good.
That was pretty awesome. Let me do this though. I'm gonna I want to go through the room and have you introduce yourself so that the listeners can hear a voice and associate it with the name. And also, it's a good one today. What is your favorite bird and why?
Okay, that's really easy. Start with who?
You.
Oh, okay. I'm Lee, or Spaz, or Sissy, or Bossy Bitch, or anything. I'm sure they call me lots of other names too. I'm the project manager for this little project that we're talking about today. And my favorite bird is...
It's not like a secret, it's the journey.
Oh, it's the journey. Yeah. Oh, okay, it's the journey.
I think listeners knew that when they saw the title of the episode and then the intro that they hear earlier.
Oh, okay, you did the intro, or you're going to do the intro?
I will do the intro.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, yeah. I'm working on the journey periodically. So my favorite bird is a dodo bird.
Why? Because it's extinct?
Well, I like that it's extinct, but I like the way that it looks. And
how do you know what it looks like?
Because I actually have a t-shirt with a dodo bird on it, and it's listening to a Walkman.
So you like the artist's interpretation of what a dodo might have been?
Well, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
When did dodos go extinct?
I don't know.
Probably after people learned to draw. So
yeah. I mean, I think they were around. I mean, I think we killed them off at some point.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I had to know they were here.
Did we eat them? Or were they just like really dumb birds that didn't?
They were dumb and they were large. Yeah.
They got named Dodo. They're like Dodo bird.
Yeah.
We don't want to offend the dodo enthusiasts in the audience. We apologize for.
I just offended myself.
All right, dodo bird. Got it.
Yeah.
I'm Dan Reeves. I'm the lead artist on the journey, and they call me Sparkplug. And my favorite, I actually am really partial to crows.
Crows?
Yeah, we talk a lot. There are a lot of crows that live near me, and they're always out when I'm walking my dog. And
nobody likes crows.
Oh, well. Yeah, hey.
You also like,
That's
okay.
You
guys all like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, wait, hold on. Why do you like the crows?
Because they're...
Because you can count them.
Yeah.
Because you can count... Oh, yeah. That's a
Yeah,
reference to something from my childhood, which I can't connect to
A
right now.
band.
The band. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about the comic book and the Brandon Lee movie,
Oh, yeah.
The Crow.
The Crow. Okay.
As opposed to the killer ones in Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes.
Yes.
Typical.
The Voids.
There's a local mountain, local set of mountains in the San Diego Regional or Mission Gorge Regional Park, and I like to hike up one of them and meditate. And the crows are always in the gorge, and we've chatted, I guess. So, yeah.
What did the crows have to say?
Not much of human interest, I guess.
They're pretty smart, though. I mean,
Yeah.
they can talk to. They have a whole dialogue. They can tell you they can talk to each other and tell you which person's coming and what color shirt they're wearing. And apparently,
And sometimes, I take the mood of the day by whether the crows are chatty or whether they're silent or, sometimes they're in your face squawky. And,
Really?
That's
Yeah.
augury.
So, augury, is that what that's?
Yeah, that's what.
Oh, okay.
What's augury?
It's
the
what the
practicing.
Romans used to practice to tell fortunes, to tell the future.
They listen to the crows?
Well, specifically the birds in general.
How
That
do
was their the specific fortune telling, and there was also reading of entrails, but that has a different.
Haven't gotten into that one.
Birds
That sounds
specifically.
messy.
Indeed.
Need a lot of togas for that one.
I thought it was just eavesdropping today. Should
Are you not
participate?
here?
I don't know.
You are here.
Am I? Okay. I'm Amanda. Lee and the rest of the crew is accepting me in as sort of, I don't know.
she's our chronicler.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Or
I'll
wordsmith.
be the archivist.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I am also a crow lover. See my
Nice.
backpack over there?
It is
wow, yeah,
covered in
backpack
crows.
crows.
White crows, even.
I can dig it.
Crows. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. I've run out of things to talk about. I talked about my day. Talked about crows. Oh, yeah, the journey. Okay. So this is the project that's going to the burn. And I want to start with sort of like, I guess, how the two of you came into the community initially. So let's go back to, I don't know, your first burn. When was your first, either of your first burns?
I went in 2010 for the first time.
I went in 2012.
Well,
Do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, with the same group of people, but 2 years later, I finally caved. I'd known about Burning Man for a long time, but I'd never made plans to go. And
How long have you guys known each other?
Since 2011, so 6
Yeah,
years.
2011.
Yeah,
Okay. So
The
somewhere
year
in the
in
middle,
between. Yeah.
you met each other. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
and
Dan, were you originally from San Diego?
Orange County was where I was born, but I've been in San Diego most of my life.
I didn't know people were actually born in Orange County.
They let that happen every once in a while.
It's like an incubator with golf courses.
But we moved out quickly once I realized what was going on. And
Which part of Orange County?
Orange.
Like actual
City
orange,
Orange.
yeah. I think a lot of listeners, by the way, might actually be surprised that there is an actual orange.
There is.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it has I remember little about it, except it has a little town square with a fountain in it.
Yeah.
And that's where the barber was. That's my fondest memory of Orange, is the barber shop.
When did you leave Orange?
I was 10, I guess. 10-ish.
You came to San Diego?
My family came down here, and then they all moved away like 10 years later.
10 years. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I just imagine.
Yeah.
10
They dropped me off.
Yeah.
And I stayed. I've lived a little while in LA and Boston, but I came back to San Diego back in 97
Yeah.
and been here ever since.
What brought you back?
School. Being a California resident anywhere in the country, it's cheaper to go to school here for the quality of education that we get.
Yeah.
So.
That's which school?
Oh, several. I graduated from San Diego State
Okay.
with a degree in fine art sculpture.
Okay, so you've been into the arts like pretty much since before you could drink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, legal
Legally.
painting and rolling around on the ground. And but yeah, I've always had a creative output of some kind.
I wonder, like, so for me, it's always interesting to find out if like artists are being supported by their family. Not necessarily financially, but I mean, just like, hey, that's cool that you're going to be an artist, because I come from a family that, like, you know, didn't.
I was going to say, hell no. Yeah. I mean, I love my family to death, but I did not get the, oh, great, you're going to grow up and be a, underpaid, underappreciated poor
Counting
person.
change at Whole Foods on the way
Exactly.
to buy lunch.
No, it was going well. My grandmother actually financed my early art career. She sent me to oil painting classes. And somewhere along the line, one of the teachers teaching the class realized that I was doing great on the oil painting, but she also realized I had an affinity for painting in the round and seeing things in a three-dimensional space. So she gave me Play-Doh, or clay, the real stuff, then to play with. And as soon as I cut up a paintboard and made a dog house and had a little dog and a sign on it and everything, and I brought that home to Grandma, I never went back to painting class again. So she wasn't paying good money for me to mess around with Play-Doh. And
I'm sorry, what age was this?
6 or 7.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty young.
I'm sorry, I was thinking you're at college.
Yeah. Okay. It was an excellent doghouse.
He was playing with Play-Doh in college.
And I actually stayed away from the arts all through school until I got into college, and then that's when I decided to go back. And I moved to LA and Boston, and while I was in Boston, I sort of realized, wait a minute, I got off track somewhere. Came back to San Diego to actually pursue an art degree.
Was there a moment or an experience that jarred you into that, or were you just not happy with what it is you're pursuing out there?
Moving, 2,400 miles away from anyone I knew, that sort of jarred it.
No, I mean to re-pursue the arts.
Yeah, no, seriously, it was leaving everything that I was connected to in San Diego and going to Boston. Mm-hmm. That trip, that disconnect, and going and finding myself, it was hard for it not to come up again. Anyone I interact, anything I did, I always had a creative flair to it, I guess. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to study anything. I originally got into UCSD to study anthropology.
Yeah.
But realized before I started that it wasn't really what I wanted to do.
I feel like a lot of artists, when they're like bouncing through the different kinds of things that they could be doing, at some point they end up around psychology and anthropology.
Yeah, why do people do what they do?
Yeah. And how can I utilize
and how can I mess with it?
Yeah.
That's
So sculpture, so you're tell me about what you were going through in school and what you were pursuing at that time as an artist.
Yeah, I mean, I applied to the sculpture program, so I knew that I wanted to work three-dimensionally, and ended up falling in love with any of what I call the fire arts, so glass, metal, and clay. Which is where I spent most of my time. The transformation or the transmutation of materials through fire is definitely at the core of what I like to do. In fact, I guess I'm a closeted, or no longer closeted pyro, because I'd light anything on fire just to see what happened to it and how I could get it to change and transform.
How strange that you found this community.
Yeah, it was calling for me early on. Yeah, and I ended up focusing on, the sort of small scale, what I call intimate scale sculpture, desktop size stuff. And I think that was mostly framed by my ceramic and metal work. It was just, it's much easier to work in a more intimate scale. But by the time I finished, I was doing sort of human scaled pieces. And then the minute I went to the playa, I'm like, okay, time to go big. You got this huge canvas. And you gotta, I've always been fascinated with identifying, labeling, creating space. Never really went all the way into, thinking about architecture per se, but how do we, decide what a space is and what a space is for and why we use it. And that's why, sort of where the shape of the journey came from, just this contemplation of space. And I call it volumetric just by its very nature. I'm using a repetitive process to create a space that is then defined.
Yeah.
So
but prior to the journey, you'd never gone quite that big.
Definitely not that big.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. In fact, the largest.
Tried.
Yeah. No. The largest. Yeah. The largest piece I ever really did was about human scale. It was like 6 feet tall. And in fact, I did quite a few pieces in my sabbatical in 2008. Not sabbatical, post-bac.
Okay. When did you graduate college?
Which was a sabbatical. 2005.
Okay.
So a little late.
Okay.
But,
that would have been awkward if the answer was I didn't graduate college.
Yeah, I never finished. I just started. Yeah.
2005. Yeah, I was an art major as well. Complete opposite of you. I switched my emphasis to multimedia because I didn't like getting my hands dirty. And I pretty much didn't learn shit in school. Like, it was just, it was like mostly an excuse to tell girls that I was an artist.
Yeah.
But you were at State, right?
Yeah.
Oh, at San Diego State.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So when was that?
I think graduated around the same time then.
Okay.
Was it in 2005? Might have been, because I want to say 2005 was my first trip to Ibiza. I feel like a chunk of my life is like before and after Ibiza, and then before and after DMT. And I can't say why that's become the thirds, but so I'm sorry. So 2005 is when you graduated San Diego State. I'm sorry. And so, what were you doing in 2005, Lee?
2005. Jeez.
12 years ago.
Wow, that's a long ass time ago. 2005, I think 2005 is when I was living in Vallarta. Yeah, I think I was living in Puerto Vallarta at that point.
What were you doing there?
I was working in bars at night, and I was working in a bakery during the day. In the morning, I would bake scones, and then I would hang out on the beach during the day.
What took you to Puerto Vallarta?
A plane.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
They have planes there?
Yeah. Actually, I'd had a career. I went to San Francisco in 90 or 91 to pursue an art degree. I graduated San Francisco State.
I think that was during the time of The Real World's first season or second.
Yeah.
You were in the same city as Puck.
I was in the same city as Puck. And as a matter of fact, Hillary Rodham Clinton spoke at my graduation. I didn't go because I didn't really want to see her because, I was all involved in like ACT UP and my partner was part of a dance group called the High Risk Group. And it was all queer activists, AIDS activists. So I was really...
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So, the guy that ran that group was busy shooting up speed and spreading the gospel about AIDS and infection. And, so we, that's what I was doing in 2005. I kind of got to a place where I didn't really like where I was in a career. I was working at Kaiser. So I left and went to figure out what I wanted to do next.
Yeah. And that was what year?
2005.
Yeah. So 2005 you end up... You're still in San Francisco at that time?
No, 2005 I went to Vallarta.
Oh, okay. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to open the door and lost track of that part.
No, that's fine.
How long were you in Vallarta?
Just a year.
Hi, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi.
We are recording a podcast.
Yeah.
Say hi now that you're on the mic.
Hey, now that we're on the mic. Sorry, everyone.
It's okay.
Journey.
Hi.
You should apologize to the audience, Sarah.
I apologize to the entire San Diego burner community and the entire podcast listeners.
I know. Wait till I show you the numbers afterwards and the listeners in Australia and Germany that are listening to apologize.
I'm going to kill you if you keep me in there.
It's totally staying in there. Okay. So how long were you down in Vallarta?
Not that long. Like less than a year. Probably 7 months, 8 months or so.
Okay. And then so eventually you end up...
And then I came back to San Diego. Mm-hmm. Kind of bounced around. I worked in healthcare. I was a manager as a non-clinician. Didn't really like doing what I was doing. I had an art degree. Wanted to do something different. I went and learned how to use all the Adobe Creative Suite, and I started working for a hotel group and was doing a lot of marketing and email campaigns and stuff, and a few different things, website design, and I met Dan.
That was what year?
And
that was in 2010, you said, right?
11.
2011. Yeah, so I was like bouncing around here for a while. Kind of a little bit aimless. Yeah. I'd known, like the whole time in San Francisco, I knew all about the burn. I knew burners. I knew the city emptied out. But
I'm always like shocked when I meet people who live in San Francisco who have not heard of Burning Man. Like I feel like over there it's like such a major part of the culture.
It is. But I mean, if you live in San Francisco, you kind of live the same culture as Burning Man anyway.
Yeah.
So you just don't go out to the desert. And I'm a redhead, so I didn't need to go out to the desert and like be hot and miserable and get sunburned and not shower. Although I don't shower that often anyway. I mean, everyone around you can tell you. So, yeah.
Yeah. So 2010 was your first burn.
Yeah.
What brought you there? What brought your awareness to it?
Yeah, I just finished a bunch of personal things. I ended a relationship and was starting to get out again, and was sort of questioning what I was doing. I had just finished work, or was finishing up my work at UCSD as a staff member. And just the big questions were all coming up. And I reconnected with some old friends, mostly with Brett Gerber, our finance coordinator for the project. And through him him and Kevin Waldrop, I was hanging out with them. And in a series of like a month, I had 3 people ask me if I wanted to go to Burning Man.
Really?
And Kevin was the first. Another friend, Dave Tao, was second. And then Brett was the third one. And I really just had excuses. Kevin asked, and I'm like, oh, well, there's no way I can get the time off work. And I'm thinking, well, except, I could quit. and that would make that easy. And then Dave, and I'm just like, well, no, I haven't thought of going, but all I have are excuses why I'm not going. And then when Brett, I'm like, okay, I'll go. It's like, obviously, I'm supposed to be going there. And
where were you working at that time?
UCSD.
Okay.
Yeah. Just a staff member in academic affairs.
Because I feel like that's like one of the common major lessons that comes from people at their first burn is, oh wait, the world didn't fall apart when you were gone for a week,
right? Yeah,
it's amazing how many people are like super obsessed with that. I absolutely went through that. I'm like, you're not even that fucking important. You're like, I was like an event planner in downtown.
Not at all. Yeah, and at UCSD, such a large employer.
Yeah,
it's like second largest in the state, I think. Yeah, one person is going to...
Third.
Wow. Third. Second.
Third largest employers in San Diego?
The state.
In the state?
Wow. The UC system.
Yeah.
So definitely get that lesson that, the world will go on.
Yeah.
But, none of us have no effect in the world. So you go to Burning Man and you come back and you see the little changes. They don't have to be big ones. It's just how we affect the individuals that we meet. And then get them to Burning Man and watch it spread and get bigger.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
tell me about like your first night on Playa.
Oh man, first night on Playa. I stayed in a six man pup tent. And that was pretty amazing. It rained the morning we were setting up.
6 man meaning like 6 men were in there?
Sorry,
okay.
6 foot pup tent. That was at the end of my first one. That's where it ended up.
He was in the middle.
Yeah, and, no, it was it's overwhelming. I mean, you're surrounded by thousands of people, and it's you're given impressions on the way in that it's a different culture, and there are different, or the lack of many expectations, and everyone around you that's going is so excited to be there, and you don't know why yet. And I mean, you can feel it, but you don't necessarily understand it. You haven't experienced it all yet. So it was very overwhelming. But Monday night, I remember I didn't go out to see the man till Tuesday. So that
really?
was, so I think I insulated and stayed in camp for a day. And there were 40 of us. It was a pretty big theme camp. So it was all about logistics.
What was the camp called?
The Lollipop Guild.
Lollipop Guild, okay.
Yeah. And so we were setting up a chapel for people to get playa weddings in. And so it was just all about the industry and the being there and the excitement. And the big thing for me was I felt very comfortable in camp. We set up this sort of area, and there was a kitchen and a shower area and the chapel and our sort of our group chill space, and it just all felt very comfortable and set up, so that when we did adventure out, there was always a home base, and even more than that, I had my tent, so I could always go back to my tent and sort of go out from there. And by the end of the week, that was taken to the other extreme. By the time we all set our intentions, leaving camp Saturday night to go watch the man burn, and then left camp together, and then were joined by other camps all streaming, and then 60,000 people streaming together around the man. It was very palpable that, like, you were part of a larger community.
Yeah.
You were part of something bigger that's happening. So, and that was all that whole week. It was just one revelation after another, eye-opener, left and right.
What do you think was the most jarring experience that you had while you were out there? Like the thing that you least expected?
It took me a while to get used to death camp and the fact that, but it was great when you finally like, it was just
You say death camp?
Yeah, isn't that what they're called out on Earth? The Thunderdome on the other side.
Okay.
I thought they were called.
I love Thunderdome.
Yeah. And it took me a while to get to the other side of all that. Like, yay, we're here, we're being expressive and excited, but humanity has a lot to express. It's not just all unicorns and rainbows. In fact, there were absolutely no unicorns or rainbows.
Interesting.
And the breadth of it was a little shocking at first. Like, some people are looking to have different experiences.
Yeah.
It's not all about, there's not just one way to be opened up,
Yeah.
I guess.
The various expressions of radical self-expression, if you will. Like
right, yeah. When you let it be radical and go wherever it's going to go, whichever direction.
That there's like darker things out there.
Much darker, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you come back, and you're now back in San Diego. Did you quit your job?
No, eventually got laid off. So,
Okay.
I mean, the 2010, we were starting to feel the effects of the 2008 downturn.
So the 2010, 2011 era, like what sort of art are you creating? What are you doing during that time?
Creatively, wow, what was I doing then? Mostly got pulled into the theme camp thing. Mm-hmm. By 2011, we were talking about whether the theme camp was going to continue. We went back as a theme camp in 2012. And so I think most of my demonstrative creative expression was through theme camping and Burning Man.
Yeah. So the Burning Man community became sort of your canvas.
Yeah, it did. It became my outlet. I did a lot of personal stuff, but I wouldn't, I liken that to doodling while on the phone kind of thing. It was just all my stuff. I'd keeping the cogs oiled.
Yeah, I wonder, because I know I went through the experience, and I've observed multiple other artists go through the experience where they're like, I don't want to let this Burning Man thing take over my life. And before you know it, it's like every social circle, everything you're doing, it's all more supportive. Did you, I don't know if fear is a strong word, but was there thoughts at all or concerns about limiting your outlets if the Burning Man community has become such a frame for what you were creating at that time?
Hadn't really thought of it that way. I mean, most of my concerns, I don't know, I hadn't put many parameters or thoughts on my creative expression. Most of my concerns center around social anxiety. I am actually I'm pretty much an introvert and very much keep to myself. And so all of a sudden I was surrounded by people that were all about, letting all that out. And it was definitely a birthing process. Like, you had to sort of get into it and come out to it. And I think I felt comfortable and safe. It was sort of like a second coming out for me, and finding, the gay community, I guess, and being comfortable with that expression. But it was something I'd already learned how to do or not do, I guess, in a way, until I did come out. Yeah. And so then you have to go through this whole relearning process to say, oh, okay, all that stuff I was doing, I can now do, in a outward way. And I definitely felt that with the Burning Man experience. Like, it allowed me to just go be me and not have to worry about what anyone thought about it, which took a whole, as Lee points out, I overthink everything. So it took a long time to sort of to bring that, fold that in, to understand what it meant. I mean, what was more important to me than the creative expression was the social expression that I found during Burning Man, and be able to come back and see that I was altered in some way by going out there, and that alteration came back with me. I was all of a sudden back in the default world, but I had a different appreciation for, like, just even going to the grocery store and understanding who the person was behind the register that was ringing me up, and the choices that they made to come there, and how they were giving up their time and what they were, offering to the people that were part of their community, and definitely a different sense of community. I had just moved into my current condo, 2 weeks before we went to the burn.
Oh, wow.
So I went from living in a bedroom to all of a sudden a stupid amount of space, and then I went and lived in a tent, and then I came back and it was all like, what do I have all this space for? And I like stayed in one corner of my house for a little while because it was a little agoraphobic in the house, and
because your tent with a shade structure.
Yeah, sitting in the corner
of
the living room, but then I started to just sort of question and break apart, like, well, what's wrong with the space, and just asking a lot of questions. So I think that would be it just brought up a lot of questions.
Yeah.
If that is a way to be with people, why do we do the things we do when we come back here? Yeah. And why do we do them the way we do them? And then by the time I went to the burn in 2011, at that time, by that time I had left my job at UCSD. And so I was a poor person counting change for food. So I applied for the low income program, and that was pretty much what I said to them. Like, I would love to be planning to go to Burning Man because that's when I get to spend time with my community and make things happen. And the week there is a great celebration, but it's not the end all of why we do all the things we do. And so it just started to frame and change my feelings about who I was spending my time with. So it does come back to that. It is a framework that I've developed some bigger thoughts about my own life. But I don't see it as limiting because of that. It's armature in a way to ask some big questions, like why do we do the things we do with the people we do them with?
Absolutely.
And at Burning Man, there's some immediate feedback and returns to those questions.
Right.
You get a lot of people that are like, well, we do it to go burn stuff, and and then you realize that there are deeper connections even there in that story. So.
Yeah, definitely. So 2011 was your first burn, Lee?
12.
But you guys met in 2011?
We did. We met at the end of 2011 after his second burn.
What happened? How did you guys meet?
We met on Scruff, the gay dating app.
Okay.
Yeah. You can download it in the app now.
Yeah.
Is Scruff is aimed at people with facial hair?
Yeah. Well,
there are several out there, but
it's not the twink one. It's for guys who are a little bit older and
a little rougher around the edges.
A little rough around the edges, and
they might go a couple of days without showering.
Go a couple of days without showering, have a little bit more life experience. Yeah. And we went and what did we do?
We went to dinner that night, and it was
and a movie at North Park Theater or something. Didn't we see a movie?
Was that the night of the film out thing?
It was film out.
Short Bus, wasn't it?
Did
we go see Short Bus?
Did we see Short Bus or did we see Priscilla?
Did you guys go see Short Bus at the Ken here?
Yeah. No, we saw it at the Birch in North Park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting because I was there in the
theater. Yeah. And I think it was one of that. It was either
something
Priscilla
like that.
Or Short Bus.
It was Priscilla or Short Bus or something like that.
But it became apparent very quickly. I thought Lee was a burner by the time we were halfway done with dinner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, obviously you've been to Burning Man. He's like, no, never. And I'm like, but everything you talk about sounds like you've been there. But apparently you lived in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So that was...
that's one of the topics that comes up quite a bit on this show is, you don't have to have gone to a Burning Man to be a burner. It's just like if people are really obsessing about the title, but there's usually a lot of lifestyle and community involvement and things like that. So you're picking up as the energy. You gave me a super weird look, man.
I could be a burner too.
That was asking that question. I don't have an answer for it, but asking that question was sort of what started the show.
Huh.
What is it? What does that mean? Because I've had lots of people in my life who have not been to as Raspa said when I interviewed him, he's like the Gerlach Regional, right? Yeah, right. That one doesn't make you not a burner.
Yeah,
but that's interesting. But you guys, what you discovered is that you're very like-minded. Lee was already on board with a lot of these thought processes, and at some point,
and when I met Dan, I had lived in San Diego. I had grown up here. And then I moved away, and I was gone for 15 years. So a lot of the people that I knew had either died in the 90s or had moved on. They were in relationships and or had moved away. And so I was kind of looking for my tribe. So
I'm sorry. I just want to make a note of that real quick. a really good friend of mine who is also a gay man from your generation, he was saying the same thing to me. That was the first time it really hit me how jarring it is to have like a very noticeable percentage of your friends were taken in the 90s by AIDS. Like that's mind blowing.
The 80s and 90s, yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of the world has such little frame of reference for. You know, like I'm trying to imagine like a whole fuck ton of my friends having died from this one thing that just ravaged my community. And the closest frame of reference like I'd have is like living, you know, during like a war in Iran, but I was a little kid, so it's not like I knew that. But that's an insane thing to. I just want to make note of that. It's like a major part of who what you've experienced.
You know, I think it happened certainly during World War II. Mm-hmm. You know, it happened with people certainly during World War II. It happened with people, you know, in different times, but it certainly did happen for my community, for Dan's community, probably for you.
Scooch younger, but
yeah, well, whatever, 10 years. But you know, I was looking for my community, and when I met Dan, you know, that night that we went out, like every time I turned around, like someone was walking by, he's all, "Oh, that's so and so. Yeah, we go to Burning Man. Oh, that's so and so. Yeah, we go to Burning Man. Oh, that's." I was just like, "What the fuck?" So like, he's like, so you know, he asks, "Oh, have you been to Burning Man?" I'm like, "No." You know, I was nice about it. I'm like, "No, I haven't been." He's like, "We should come to a meeting. We're gonna have a meeting on Sunday." I'm like, "Oh fuck." So I go to the meeting and everyone's nice, you know, sitting on couches, whatever. There's one cute guy there, and I'm like, "Okay, I'll go."
Is it a lot of scruffy guys?
Yeah, everyone's scruffy.
Pretty scruffy.
Pretty scruffy. I mean, they weren't as scruffy as I usually hang out with. I'm used, you know.
He's extreme scruff.
Yeah.
I lived in San Francisco for 15 years. I'm kind of the raunchiest of our group. But, you know, it's okay. I like to take people down into the gutter every once in a while. But, yeah, I mean, it's been good. It's been really, really good. So
you go to the meeting, though, you meet people, you decide you're ready to go to the burn?
Yeah, I mean, I figure, okay, this is how I can get a tribe. This is how I can, like, make it in San Diego. I'll go to the burn. It'll be okay. I'll make someone take me home on Wednesday.
Yeah. that's a dare.
I'll be sunburned. They'll feel sorry for me. I'll get to leave on Wednesday.
So you arrive on Playa.
Yeah.
And tell me about that. What's that experience like?
I had the biggest tent in camp.
The condo.
The condo, yeah. I didn't really leave camp until Wednesday when it was the naked bike ride, and I went out to like one stop, and then I went back to camp. I was kind of surprised that Dan didn't really leave camp until Tuesday or Wednesday, but like, so finally, like Wednesday or Thursday night, I went out, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is fucking crazy! I fucked up."
By staying in the first?
By staying in camp for like the whole first part of the week, because it was friggin' amazing. Yeah. And then I went and I saw the man burn, and I was like, "Oh wow!"
What was your reasoning for staying in camp?
Well, I mean, for as loud and obnoxious as I am, and for as gregarious as I appear to be,
you're not that loud. Just obnoxious.
I really am kind of shy. I really it takes a lot for me to like work up the nerve to like really go out and be social.
Yeah.
It's gotten a lot easier over the years, but at my core, I'm really not that person. I've really had to train myself to be social and to interact with people and be nice all the time. Well, I'm not really nice.
Yeah, all the time.
I'm not really nice all the time either, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's work. It's work.
Yeah. What was for you the most jarring thing about the experience?
It wasn't not showering for a few days.
Yeah.
No, that was easy. I mean, that was easy. The most jarring thing about the whole thing, you know, the most jarring thing was those fucking lederhosen we had to make. Jesus fucking Christ. They made us we all had to have a camp outfit. And we all had to have lederhosen.
What's lederhosen?
You know, the German lederhosen?
So those shorts with suspenders. And
right.
Okay, but we didn't have cool leather ones. They were like micro mini short and no shirt underneath. And we had to wear them when we did the weddings. And by the way, you got a little sparkly sequined hat to go with it. And I mean, I'm loud and obnoxious, but I don't know. I just felt like the biggest uber gay that whole time.
What? By the end of the week, though, how did you feel?
Like the biggest uber gay.
Something made you come back.
Well, I mean, it wasn't the comment of like riding down the street on my bicycle and someone yelling, "Hey, boy, George wants his pants back." I mean, the first time I didn't know what to wear. I just went and like bought fabric and made whatever I thought would be comfortable because like no one was helping me. But I did have a tutu. Anyway, what made me go back is it was fun. What really made me want to go the first time was that I wanted to see what it was like for a city to come together in a week. What was it like for 60,000 people to come together, make a city, make it work? And what did that really entail? And how is it really going to work? I really wanted that experience.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be part of it. And I was going to go with this group of people that I had spent every single fucking Saturday with making stupid lederhosen and like day glow lollipop things that Dan went around with like a screwdriver drilling holes into playa so we could like put them in. And oh my God, everyone was so tired. Oh, okay. No, we didn't do that. No, sorry. We didn't do that. Cut that part out, Arash. Anyway, and we had a spin art bike and it was like, anyway, no, I wanted to go back and I wanted to.
And you've sort of warmed up to the spin art bike.
I like the spin art bike if I could have an umbrella. But I wanted to go back and I wanted to like experience the whole week.
Yeah. So in the coming years, your relationship becomes tighter and tighter. You become closer friends.
Yeah.
And you're going every year. Right, 2012, 2013. No.
No.
Haven't been back since.
Yeah. Well, the playa tried to kill me in 2011, and I went back in defiance in 2012, but then haven't been back since. So this will be my return.
Wow.
One of the reasons was it wasn't worth risking to die unless I was doing something big.
How did it try to kill you?
Cryptococcal meningitis.
That's a word.
Yeah, it's a big, long word for some kind of fungus.
Uh-huh.
Got into my spine and wanted to...
On playa?
Well, it's actually present all throughout the western coast.
Mm-hmm.
But you throw dehydration on top of that and stress from... getting ready to get there and all that, the travel.
It was the year before I went. It has nothing to do with it.
It wasn't Lee.
You didn't give him a fungus?
Yeah.
Before we met.
And it was, in 2011, it was the thing that kicked off a very rough year. So 2012 was my descent down for many reasons. And, almost getting sick and almost dying was one of them. My mom died at the end of that year. So it was just a big year for me to sort of let it all go. And I did. 2012 was probably my favorite of the three burns. And but then I knew I wasn't going to go back until I had something big to take.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
During this time period, are you sort of like navigating the community more, going to regionals or anything? Are you still creating art? What's going on?
Yeah.
Until the journey comes around.
Yeah, it was a big, huge self healing period. Yeah, to take a break from everything for a while. Yeah. And came back and just tried to figure out what if it was the culmination of the stuff that going to Burning Man the first time had started, asking all those questions and who was I and what was I doing, and by the time 2012 ended, I pretty much had derailed everything at that point to really ask the question, and it boiled it down to its simplest. And
have you had? I mean, are you any closer to an answer?
Oh no, no, but I'm having a lot of fun looking now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I've definitely come into a more solid sense of who I am and what it is I see myself doing. But that's I don't think that's a universal or a human thing. I think it's just the path that I've been on.
Right.
And I started getting a little more creative with how I, paid the bills, and I never wanted to be a studio artist. I never wanted to get in a situation where I had to rely on my artistic output to make a living, because I didn't want it to get tied to that, which I think is a pretty common thing.
Yeah. Well, it can be a bit claustrophobic, and it can definitely mess with your creative drive. Like one of the things I'll hear people say, I'm an aspiring artist, and that irritates me. Because, I've been there.
Either you are or you're not.
Yeah. You are a fucking artist. What you mean is maybe I'm a professional artist.
Exactly.
And, being a professional artist, I can tell you after having, been on many sides of it, can be constraining. Yeah. Because now you're concerned about paying the rent. And that's, a whole different thing, and that can completely mess with your creativity.
And I did that for a short period, freelance design work. Yeah, I did web and print design for a few years, and definitely felt that great, I can be creative within this box. Yeah. And it was after having gone to something like Burning Man, and then trying to do a career in which your entire creative output is parameterized or bound in. Definitely wanted to get out of that completely, and then ended up.
But you can make some good money that way.
Yeah. Oh, totally. No, it takes, I could see it having been done at the other end, a more mature understanding of who I was and my creativity, and then having no problem saying, sure, I'll make you a website that looks ugly because that's what you want. Yeah. But I'll try to help you along the way in a direction that would be pleasing to people. Mm-hmm. So I learned how to do that. Yeah. And of course, this project has been a lesson in that. Nothing ever gets out exactly. Well, that was actually a lesson of school. Was if I made something exactly the way I saw it, I was probably the only person that was going to find it interesting in the end. And I had to learn how to let material talk to me and process talk to me and other people have input, and then it usually became something bigger, something that...
To detach from the outcome just a little bit.
Yeah, totally, and learn how to let go. And so that was started back in school. But this project has definitely taken the reins out of my hand and say, let go of outcome completely, because...
I find art is a means of communication. And as such, you have to know how your audience communicates as well as... So knowing how to communicate with them, it's not just a one-way street. Yeah. It's you have to know what key phrases are for them in the language you're speaking, and
Sure.
Yeah.
No, totally agree.
Lee, did you return to the playa without Dan?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That was a hot mess that year. 2013 was fucking shitballs. I mean, 2012 was like riding on angel wings. It was really pretty and nice and fun and unicorns and rainbows, and we all got along. And 2013, someone got arrested. I mean, everyone yelled at each other. No one liked where their tent was. Everyone was miserable. One thing after another. It was just it was the antithesis of the previous year. And it was just bleh. Yeah. And I was going to go back the next year, and work was just kind of yucky. And so I sold my ticket to a coworker, and I actually saw her over the weekend. She's like, oh my God, thank you for getting me a ticket that one year. It made a difference in my life. And I'm like, okay, well then, that's what it was supposed to be. So yeah, I haven't been back, but done other things. So
yeah. When was the idea for the journey born?
Well, I knew I was looking for something, and I had several ideas floating around up there after 2010. In 2012, I saw that iteration of Cubotron Core on Playa. And
Cubotron Core?
Yeah, and so from my
that?
understanding, they've been several years. I don't know if they're still going or not, but they would reconfigure the lights, and it was essentially a large LED display. That year, it was in the shape of a torus, very much like we're doing, but it was about 15, 20 feet across, but it was also 15, 20 feet in the air. So you could lie underneath it, and it was really cool. From afar, they did some mapping on it so that it had images that moved across it like a big eye that watched the playa. But you can go lie underneath it, and lying underneath it, the only thing I could think was, wouldn't it be cool if you can get up and run around inside of it? And so went back and let that idea percolate a while, and it was after my troubles at the end of 2012, sometime end of 2013, that I was talking with a friend about just some of we had actually met in Will Call at Burning Man. He was from San Diego and I was, but we'd never met here. And so those kinds of connections are always fun. And came back and was just talking to him. He had asked if I had still been thinking about art projects. And when I described the ones I was thinking of, I got to the idea for the journey. And I'm like, that's actually more imminently doable than I gave it credit in the first place.
What was the original idea?
Well, it
was an escalator ride around the playa with some lights here and there.
Okay.
No, it was pretty much.
That'd be a really big fucking escalator.
It was like one of those moving walkways at the airport, just around the trash fence.
Yeah, that's what it was originally.
Like in my favorite Geico commercial with the caveman.
Yeah.
And the Royx Pop track.
Okay.
And no, it was more. It was very much like it was structurally. I knew I had sort of envisioned the structure out of wood. I knew I wanted it to be, interlocking wood joinery or all wood joinery. I knew it had lights on it. But what those lights did and what presence it had has evolved quite a bit since my initial vision. The biggest evolution in that was realizing that I didn't necessarily have to know. That I could invite other artists to collaborate on the project, and they could have an understanding of the lights and the audio that could bring more to the process, way more than just providing I used the word armature earlier, and I've used it before on the project, that it's an armature for bringing the community together, but it's also a canvas or an armature of sorts for other artists to express themselves in LEDs and sound. And so it looks a lot like I originally imagined it. Back in 2013, I was transitioning into what I do now, which is owning a furniture store, mid-century in Hillcrest. And that opportunity, getting into that, was what gave me the freedom to actually set the time aside to work on the model. It took me a year and a half to put a scale model of the project together in my spare time. And when I showed that to the guys last year was when the project sort of got rolling and became something more than just me playing with Tinker Toys.
The same crew as in Lollipop Guild.
Yeah, well, the original, the OG core, as we call it now, was definitely made up of the brothers I'd met in the Lollipop Guild. But now it's ballooned and gotten so much bigger than that. But, but there's still a good handful of us around involved in the project on a regular basis.
At what point did you take on the role of project manager?
That was way too early. That first night when he showed us the model, basically.
He asked, he's like, so, are you doing this? How's this happening? Like, do you have any idea?
He had this spreadsheet with all the costs figured out, and there was 12 line items on there.
A few more than 12, but it was only a third of our current cost. So it was cost saving measures.
Yeah. And you have a background with project management, Lee?
I do a little bit. When I worked at Kaiser, I was the facilities manager, so I had to I oversaw all the construction. And so yeah.
Okay. So you look at that, you're like, okay, somebody needs to do this.
Yeah. So I kind of opened my mouth, and Dan's all, well, Lee, you've had some project management in the past. And I was a project manager for a while at Kaiser before I did the construction or oversaw construction as facilities manager. So I'm like, I guess, okay. So, yeah.
And at what point did you guys start building? When was this?
That was
not, it was a while.
Yeah, we met probably like...
It was April last year when I showed you guys the model.
Yeah.
And then by...
April of 2016?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we were just sort of tossing the idea around. How did we do it? How would it happen? And then...
what we did first, though, is we tried to nail him down on like what the intent was.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So
never get an artist to tell you why they're doing something.
That was my first thing, is to like define what the scope of the project was. Yeah. And that was...
That's when you should have run screaming down the street saying, don't ever call me again.
Yeah, that was like me saying we have to have like a page and a half of just identifying what the scope is. And, you know, we can make it kind of pie in the sky a little bit and a bit esoteric. And we had someone write it up, and we went through this process, and it went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And finally we got it, and Dan, in the meantime, worked on...
what I'm sorry, before we move on, what sort of information goes into the scope, and how is that valuable to someone building a project?
Well, I mean, what it did is it kind of set the tone for the project, and it's become really valuable in that several times throughout the course of the project we've said, well, wait, what is it? What is the intent of the project? And we've gone back and we referred to that document. Yeah. And that document has made decisions for us throughout the course of the project. Okay. So what it's done is it said, this is the intent of the project. The project is going to be this contemplative, reflective experience set on the playa, and it's going to be approximately this big and this tall, and it's going to have these interactive elements, and it's going to be lit, and it's going to interact with art cars, and it's going to people are going to be able to interact with it, and it's going to be a different experience during the day than it is at night, and this is how it's going to differ, and this is the origins of it, and this is it's a double helix chromosomal structure that loops around 36 times, has 36 revolutions, and it forms a tube that you can walk through, and and from a distance it looks like this, and up close you have this relationship with it, and from the interior courtyard you can change people's journey and experience on the inside. There's no beginning, there's no end. So we kind of set like the parameters of what the structure was, and that kind of gave us the marching orders moving forward. Okay, this is what it is. This is what we're making. Right.
Do you have an example of a situation where you were thinking about doing something that you went back to the scope and realized, this is going away?
Oh, yeah.
My big one is at one point I wanted to put the whole thing on bar bearings and make it rotate. Okay. That was his favorite example of scope creep. He's classic example of let's make the thing first. Yeah. Then we'll figure out how to make it spin.
But I think, that was scope creep. But I think most recently we were in conversation with a group, and they wanted us to do a placement, a very specific placement on playa. And that placement would have had us on inner playa and really close to Esplanade. Mm-hmm. And that would have been
a very different experience.
It would have been a very highly visible place. It would have been easy for us to get to. Logistically, it would have been really easy for us, and it would have made a lot of sense. Yeah. But at one point, I just said, wait a minute, let's go back to our guiding document. Let's go back to our original document. What does that say that we're doing here? And it says that it's a contemplative, reflective experience. And if that's what it is, can that happen if we're at Esplanade? And the answer to that is no.
Probably not.
So we can't consider this as an option for us. And so that's why setting something up like that in the very beginning is so important, because that's your marching orders. And we probably would have ended up off track, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because it sounded like a really good idea. But it keeps us in integrity. And for me, that's really, really important, to stay in integrity.
Yeah.
It was a really hard decision. And it was something that it was a really hard decision until that question was asked.
Yeah. What
does our guiding document say? What does our original document say? And as soon as we read that, it was like, it's easy. I mean, like, any guilt that came with that decision was gone. It was eady.
Yeah.
I think you still struggled with it.
Mostly
because there were social implications that came along with it.
Exactly. I don't know, daddy issues or something, or I just don't like disappointing people.
Right.
And it was a hard decision for us to make, and it wasn't going to make things necessarily any easier for anyone.
No.
But and potentially harder. And that's a hard thing to have to walk through, but oddly enough, in a year, we've walked through a couple of those.
We have.
And, whether it's the intent behind the piece that has guided us, or the community that we've formed that has sort of laid down intentions or sort of a mission statement of sorts, values. That's what it is. They've helped us establish values that we operate under. And there have been a couple of times where we've been suggested to move in one particular direction or the other, and we're like, well, it doesn't really fit our value set. It's not really who we are as a group.
Yeah, the journey is very much an entity. There's various organisms that are connected to it, such as you humans. And then it has its own living personality. It has its own guide, and it makes me think of. I've been thinking I should have like a more 2017 version of this, but like a man who stands for everything stands for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's such a. I can tell you, like right now, just listening to you give that example. Every episode of this show that we've done, where we've gone through an art project, there will be like this one specific piece of wisdom that comes out of it, that if you're listening, like that's an important, huge lesson to learn, probably the most important lesson that comes out of the episode. I think this was that.
Yeah.
So, if you guys want to check out for the rest of the interview, you can totally do that.
I already did.
Yeah. So now you're moving forward. You guys are building a collab at this point?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, completely.
How does tell us about how that process works? Do you have to rent out the time, you rent out space in order to build this thing?
We applied for. They have a process in which you apply for space use, and they essentially choose whether to grant you that space or not.
Right.
And so they're helping us out big time on our overall budget by granting us our storage and workspace. It has also given us access. I've been able to move the full production of the project to Collab.
Where was it being produced before?
I was working out of a place that I have an account through my business with called Maker Place down on Morena. And that allowed me to laser cut the model. It allowed me to CNC route the first full-size pieces of the project.
And Maker Place is a venue. Basically, artists can rent space and use equipment.
Yeah, it's a collaborative, but it's a how would you say it? A professionally managed collaborative. So Maker Place owns all the tools. They maintain all the tools, and you basically have a membership to access those tools in that space. It's a wonderfully professional space to work in. There are a lot of people that actually use it as a 8 to 5 studio and shop, and they get a lot of it's an incredibly productive
huge,
space.
Beautiful, clean
Yeah.
warehouse space for artists, crafters, and makers. I mean, everything from welding to
Carpentry to cabinetry.
embroidery machines to quilting machines to...
But very work-focused. People are there to work.
It's like hardcore.
It's not a social space.
It's not a social space at all.
Collabs, very much a social space where stuff gets done, mostly.
And there's some music playing,
Yeah.
And so it's a much easier place to hang out and to develop relationships and to expand community. Since we moved to CoLab, the number of people that we've met to help with the project on various aspects has just ballooned. I mean, we've...
The original Journey run that was at Utopia, was that made at the Makerspace?
Yes.
Or? Okay.
Yeah, so that was a proof of concept space. I had done a full-size ring by August of last year.
So that one was, so tell the listeners about it. That one was like a straight line rather than a curve.
Yeah, it was all the same pieces. But the torus shape is made up of revolutions that tend to form a pie shape. And when you put enough pie shapes together, you get a whole pie again. Or in this case, you get a donut in the shape, or a torus, which is what we're taking to the playa. So we just took each of the slices and reversed them one after another, so that it sort of wiggled forward on a straight line. Yeah. And it was the first time we had connected the pieces together in one continuous shape.
That was the second time.
Well, true. We did take it out to the desert and actually make sure it worked before we brought it to where people were going to climb all over it and make it not work, potentially.
How many people on the crew, by the way?
At that point?
Yeah.
There were about a dozen of us.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, but it was the first time we had all the lights on and all the, we brought all the pieces together for what we intended to do on Playa. And we sold it as a proof of concept. We got it paid for as a proof of concept, and we still have it. It's actually still in storage, and we're trying. We take the pieces from it and turn them into new pieces as we can, but not all of them have been.
So you guys, in the beginning when you started doing this, like, was there fundraising already being done, or did you use that piece to really?
We did fundraising from the very beginning.
Yeah.
I found a fundraising widget online that we had an account set up with a local credit union. We didn't have a fiscal agent at that point. We just had money going directly into a bank account. We raised $3,500 ourselves, and then
in what ways? Just like online
social media, like our friends and family and stuff. And we just hit up people and
didn't have a party yet.
We didn't have a party yet.
Not quite yet.
Yeah, and we just kept asking people, and we didn't even set up that Facebook page until what? I think
after Utopia, wasn't, or right before.
Right before Utopia. Yeah. So
it wasn't as much social media, but
yeah,
that was in September.
Yeah, in
right
September,
after,
and we started a mailing. We started a mailing list. So I started doing
email blasts,
direct mail email pieces, and a website. So we started because I had a marketing background, so I was like, oh, just get the word out.
Yeah.
So
that's because I was going to ask, by the way, one of the things about the journey that's been interesting to me is like as a marketing professional, like all the design work and everything is very consistent. The brand has a very consistent voice. The logo is professional.
I'm pointing at Lee. That's all.
Yeah.
I did brand style guidelines.
Yeah. Excellent.
We actually have
branding. Nice. You had an identity package and everything.
Yeah. But I mean, for me, that's really important, and that's how people recognize who you are. And I think it really helps.
Yeah. Oh no, it's huge. I mean, I'm not going to say most. I can tell you that definitely a larger percentage of artists working in the community, in my observation as a marketing person, tend to definitely not have like a marketing background. It's a very kind of, for lack of a better description, blue collar approach to it.
Yeah.
And so that was something I noticed right away. I'm like, man, how long have these guys been working on this thing? He looks so professional.
Lee can whip that stuff up amazingly quickly, and has just from the beginning kept an eye on the consistency on the brand. In fact, some of those decisions we talked about based on values were, well, what you're suggesting to us is off-brand. It doesn't make sense to us. Because it's not supporting, there's a lot behind that, the community, the values and all that, but it's expressed through the image that Lee has helped us create.
Right.
Which of course is then supporting the image that the sculpture itself creates.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty recognizable now when you see the ring of lights with people standing in it, like, oh, they were at one of our events, and and that's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a lot of fun to see it to spread that way.
What came from Utopia, from that experience? Any lessons, movement?
Yeah. I mean, one, we were asked we applied for a grant and we received it, but it was based on this understanding that we would raise money to match it. We would work with them to bring it. It was a lot of work. So we had to adjust, how quickly could we put this thing together and how was it going to come? But the biggest thing was my surprise that just people enjoyed it. That it was actually
that was a surprise to you.
Yeah, well, I like it, and it's always just a question.
Nobody
Like, is anyone else going to find this? Yeah.
Well, I mean, people spill drinks on it. I'm sure someone spit on it. Ashley Gannon. I hope you listen to this podcast, Ashley. She fell through it and looked really silly, and she's one of our biggest fans. But we also, it was our first grant. It was our
first time writing the description to appeal to people, like, help us fund this, help us make it happen.
But when we did that, we went right back to that originating document.
Yeah, always.
Well, I mean, there's like the marketing face of it, and then there's the internal document, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that we published our internal. That's another thing that we've learned the value of along the way is transparency. We do everything as transparent as we can, and it seems
except for fighting.
Even though we've done that slightly publicly a couple of times, we don't do it transparently, right? But
we don't really fight.
No, not much.
So
we're still here.
People are okay. So at this point, you're a collab. You're building. You're moving forward. I want to say what is the next event that it makes an appearance at?
We're heading to Northern California.
No. I mean, after Utopia, what was the next?
What was the next event?
Palm Springs Pride.
That's where it went next.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Very different.
It was really gay. We had a gay old time there. Yeah.
There were a lot of like at Utopia, we were placed very nicely. We were at the sort of entrance to the street that led to the temple. So we got a lot of people walking by and a lot.
There's a temple at Pride in Palm Springs?
No. This was at Utopia.
Okay.
At Pride, it was the exact opposite. We were on the the brand new heel that didn't exist the year before. So the Pride comes down and it makes a right-hand turn and goes off to more fun stuff. And they added our block that year, and we were at the end of it.
Does that event get it like the same way that like burners do? Like, how do they interact with it? Is it the same kind of experience?
Kind of, sort of, a little bit.
It was.
There were people that really dug it, and there were people that were like, "What is that?" And there were people that got up there with their 3D camera and took pictures, and there were families that were really into it, and people were doing their profile pictures with it, and I mean, it was really fun. There was some guy way older than me that was like,
he was awesome.
Dancing.
Did the whole dance catwalk down the whole thing.
Yeah.
It took 5 minutes.
And he was like, he was in his 80s. He must have been in his late 70s, early 80s. And he was like dancing through it, having a good time. And there was a lady that came back and talked to me so many times. I mean, she's drunk off her ass. But
let's tell you one more thing.
Yeah. But I mean, we made good connections. We met nice people. I mean, it's always so fun to meet people and have them so excited about the project.
At Utopia, I would have nicknamed it the Thank You Tunnel because every person that walked through it said thank you. I would say almost every person that walked through it said thank you because we'd be at the end and they'd be like, thank you, and then they'd run off. And at Pride, we nicknamed it the Happy Tunnel because no matter what anyone was doing, by the time they got to the end of it, they were happy. They were smiling, and they didn't always know why, but it just had this sort of delightful effect, and we were happy for that.
Yeah,
it was. And whether you understood what it was, that's sort of become my thing. Whether you understand what it is or not, I mean, that's the point. Ask what it is and wonder and think about it. You don't need to have an answer.
Some people think it's a time machine, and for them, it is a time machine. You know,
we get a lot of dinosaur bone analogies,
whales, bone,
whale rib cages and stuff. So but that's half my intent is ask what it is, or not ask, but just ask yourself, what do you think it is?
Yeah. How did you decide on the shape of the wood?
My initial reaction, or the joinery that I'm using is all 90-degree joinery. So I use a lot of through tenons and tenon pins to hold it together, which is all have to relate to each other perpendicularly.
I'm certain that sentence makes sense to somebody who's listening to the show.
Did your eyes just roll in the back of your head?
No, I go
because mine do every single time.
And so all those 90-degree angles, I'm like, well, I should balance this out with some organic shapes. Yeah. So I knew that I wanted to create the whole thing is on the scale of an average dwelling, at least in my cultural experience here. The 8-foot ceiling, so I made an 8-foot tunnel, and so I knew what the inside diameter was, and I had to have enough room to make connections and support it. So it was organic design.
Can you explain what the 90-degree thing is you were saying?
Just when you have
it's a right angle.
Yeah, no, I got that. But what does that mean?
Cross joints. So to get a flat piece of plywood to be dimensional, you can either take a whole bunch of them and laminate them together and then carve out what you don't want.
Right.
Or you can make more space by having them interlock with each other at 90-degree angles. And since I'm using a CNC bed that is technically, it's a 3-axis bed, so you're really cutting in 2.5 dimensions. You can move all over the sheet of plywood along its length and down its width, but you can really only drop straight down into the material with the bit.
Right.
So that means I can't create angles that are different than 90 degrees if I have two pieces of cut plywood overlapping each other. And so I just based all the connections off easy assembly,
And you balanced that with organic curves on there.
So there are no straight edges on the pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were those artistic decisions, or was there a reason for the more organic parts of it?
So they were mostly aesthetic, mostly artistic reasons. The numbering there's a bit of numerology in the whole thing. So numbers were important enough to me as I was making decisions, but they're just as often balanced by structural concerns.
Okay.
So by the spiral is made up of 7 arcs. So that would inherently give me, if turned the right way, 2 feet and a center top. So it was either going to be 5, 7, or 9. And the other consideration was if I made arcs out of sheets of available plywood, they could be, only so long before they weren't going to fit on the sheet of plywood. So 5 probably would have been too large for the arc pieces, and 9 would have been too small and too many joints to put together. So 7.
Yeah.
So but these are all things I'm doing.
I opt for 5, but you went for 7.
But
you put it together with us.
Yeah.
I don't have
5 might have been nice, right?
Totally. Yeah. That's what I was thinking the entire time. But I was crawling through the hail trying to.
Right.
But at least it wasn't that other structure you helped work on.
Oh, Jesus Christ. We'll get to that one in another episode.
So they're practical considerations as much as aesthetic or
what for the
and aesthetic.
This is all for the builder geeks out there. What program are you working on to design these?
So both the processes I was using to make the model and the full size pieces can use vector files, simple vector files. So I actually drew the whole thing in Illustrator.
Oh wow!
In fact, when we submitted our 3D rendering of the piece from a top view, I faked the whole thing in Illustrator to look 3D. And it's not. So there were some great T-shirts that are coming out that you can get with that image on it. But
that's cool. Yeah.
It was me just needing. I kept him waiting too long, and we had to submit our application. And so I finally just sat up all night and made it.
So okay?
Oh, you sat up all night and made it?
Yeah, of course.
I'm working on it.
But
it'll only take 10 minutes.
Now that we're working at Collab, it's a different. Well, that's my other playa name. 10 minutes. His is 10%
for very different reasons.
And but working at Collab, we're using a different driver for the CNC bed. So to produce the G code, I was introduced to Autodesk Fusion 360. So I'm actually rendering the whole thing for the first time.
Did you have to learn a program to do that?
I did. Yeah, a completely steep learning curve. But we're up and running and in production mostly.
Yeah.
And moving along.
The version that went to Pride, was that the curved version that we saw at Suaraman, or was the run?
The run again. Yeah.
So, at some point, you do a restart on the project, or is it all the same?
After the first of the year, we basically retired the proof of concept, the journey run, and got into production on the full-size piece. So what we just took to Suaraman 2 weeks ago was the first quarter of the actual piece going to the play.
So, Suaraman, for listeners, you can check out the previous episode of this show to learn about it. It's the regional burn in Arizona, about 1,000 people, yada, yada, yada. Okay, how did Suaraman come about for the journey?
Yeah, Lee?
Well...
Because Lee says yes to everything.
Yeah.
No, I said no to something today. Remember?
Probably not.
Okay, well, anyway. So Suaraman came about because we do... waffles on Christmas morning, and Rebel Dharma came over, and we were talking, and we said, oh, well, we should start doing regional burns, and so we started talking about Suaraman.
Wait, hold on. Waffles in the morning, like at home?
Yeah, at his house.
Okay.
Because we used to be roommates, and so like Christmas morning, we would do waffles and invite people over.
And yet this was Rebel with Burners Without Borders, LA. Yeah. How did you guys meet? Scruff?
No. Where do you... Grindr? Oh, we met him. I met Rebel at Utopia.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. They were just down the hill from us.
They were just down the hill from us.
Yeah.
So,
so you're having waffles.
We're having waffles, and so we're like, yeah, we should, like, hang out and do some stuff together, and blah, blah, blah. And so we, like, after everyone left, we sat around and we talked, and, you know, we'd been drinking eggnog with Fireball.
Oh, wow.
So everything was a good idea at that point.
Everything was a good idea.
And so we decided we were going to do Suaraman together. And so...
Because Rebel was already planning to do that for Burners Without Borders outreach.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, he had already had this idea that he wanted to start to do stuff. And I think everything kind of came together that day, kind of. I mean, I don't know. He'll have to tell his side of the story, but for us, everything kind of came together that day because we knew that we wanted to do some regionals, but I knew we needed some dry runs.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So our man was anything but dry.
Oh, my God.
Everything but dry.
Well, the first day was kind of dry.
Yeah.
And that last day was kind of dry.
Yeah.
I'm still peeling from that fucking thing, but I want to go back.
Yeah, it's again referencing back to the previous episode. So that's how I end up linking up with Rebel, and he's like, "Hey, let's go to Arizona." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Flash forward to the journey and Burners Without Borders and me, and other people. So we head out there.
Rain, hail, and snow.
Yeah, it rains
and sunburns.
It snows, it sunburns. Again, this is a bunch of stuff that we talked about on last episode. But I was definitely watching the whole thing, and like I was telling you at one point, Dan, like this is fucking great. Like you could not ask for a better practice round.
Yeah,
to like a 72-hour period where every atmospheric disturbance you could imagine was thrown at this fucking thing.
I wish we would have got struck by lightning.
Oh
yeah. Yeah. For a while, they were running around turning off generators for that.
Yeah,
but yeah, lightning unfortunately did not happen. And by we mean the project, not. I don't want to get struck by lightning.
No, I don't want to get struck by lightning. And I don't want those electronics fried.
Yeah.
Because we had to order those lights from China. Yeah. And that was a major undertaking. It wasn't hard to get the lights from China, but goddamn, banking is fucked up. Pardon my French, but banking's fucked up. Getting money to China is hard.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder than getting the lights here.
Tell us, so I still don't know this part of the story, by the way. Tell us about your journey, bringing the journey to Arizona.
What part? I mean, it took
18 hours.
18
to drive
hours.
From San Diego.
We don't have enough time for it. No, anyway, like we got 2 miles from.
We had a caravan of 4 vehicles, which was broken before we left the parking lot. And by the time we were 2 miles from CoLab, it was completely shattered, and no one was together anymore. We lost our top tarp and had to pull off the road and redo that whole
On the
thing.
freeway?
On the freeway.
A tarp flew off on the freeway.
Yeah.
Basically, well, I mean, we didn't lose it, but
we
We're just happy there wasn't a
recovered
multi-car pileup on the 80.
Yeah.
Well, and
that's
we
what
were
happened.
right off of Carl Berger Dodge, and so I take a picture of like this big, nice truck, and I forward it out to the caravan. I'm like, "Oh, we stopped to get a new truck," and some of the Nimrods actually believed that we'd stopped to get a
It
new
became
truck.
the story.
Yeah, I was one of those Nimrods.
Well, yeah, I guess you didn't know me well enough yet, did you?
It didn't seem completely illogical to me. I can tell you this. I was looking at it like maybe they needed to buy a new truck anyway.
Oh, yeah, like I just took out the Journey credit card and bought a new truck.
Bitch, I don't know your life.
You do a little more now.
The last thing I knew is that you guys had a fundraiser on like Quince. I didn't know you guys yet at this time, but on the day of my birthday party,
Oh, in January.
January like 30th or something, you guys had a fundraiser, which I had a couple of people from your party come to my party telling me about this ridiculous house that this fundraiser was made.
Yeah, you missed out. You really did.
Yeah, we were all going to like a party that was starting at like 11:30 p.m., but we were like pre-gaming in Old Town. And while we were there, a couple of people came from your party to tell us about that.
Which was like
And
right up
pointed
the hill.
roll and say, there it is.
How did that fundraiser come about?
Well, we know some people that have some money.
Apparently.
So we just asked them if we could have a party at their house.
We knew them before as fellow burners, and they had come to see the structure at Utopia and offered support. So we asked them, could we throw a fundraiser at your property? Yeah. And that was before any of us saw it or knew what we were asking.
No.
Had you?
Yeah, I'd been there.
I hadn't been there. But they were great.
They're great. They're awesome people. They're really, really cool. They actually camp with comfort and joy. So
Yeah, which I love riding through late at night.
Oh yeah,
All the
right.
Tassel.
So nice.
Yeah.
And then in the vein of everything else we've done with the journey, we needed people that knew DJs, so we asked them to coordinate our music, and basically when the project has a need, we find people to fill it.
Yeah.
And
How many fundraisers have you had event-wise?
two event fundraisers.
Right. The most recent one being the one from Saturday night, which I'm still recovering from sleep-wise. Okay, so
You and everyone else that went.
yeah, not much
It was
to
an
go.
overnight.
I'm sorry, it wasn't any fun.
Yeah, it was awful.
Oh, terrible.
Just terrible. So the next stop is Burning Man, right?
No.
We have a few more.
Wait,
gatherings.
you want to go with us to some
Burning
stops?
Man?
Well,
have
I
a
mean,
couple
you're
more
going to be there,
stops.
right?
Yeah, I
Anyway.
guess so.
Yeah, right.
Well, hold on. What are the next few stops?
Okay, so we're doing All of Us. A week from today, we leave for All of Us, which is a queer burner event in Northern California. Yeah. And then we come back from that, and we have a little bit of a respite. Like
a month.
No, because it's June. We have 3 weeks.
Okay, well, a month.
We have 3 weeks, and then we go
10
to
minutes.
Nevada. We go to Las Vegas's
Synergy. Southern Nevada.
But there's water there. You should come with us.
Yeah.
You should come.
There's water in Nevada?
Yeah. Yeah.
They have pictures anyway.
They have pictures.
Okay.
It's at a ranch. It looks really cool. They have like 3 lakes and some hot springs and shit.
No,
So
I really I have actually heard a lot of amazing things about the Vegas burn, and like the community seems to be pretty badass, and because like a lot of the performers and artisans that we experience like on the strip, like in Vegas at the hotels and stuff, like a lot of them are burners. Like it's a lot of still walkers and artists and builders and aerialists.
I think you need to come to that one.
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to. And then after that, you're going to Burning Man.
San Diego Pride is in July.
That's right.
Well, wait,
Pride in San
that's
Diego.
We don't know.
we think San Diego Pride.
Yeah.
Okay. You
I
think?
mean, we've been in contact with them.
You're not sure.
No, don't have.
We don't have a contract yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we're working on it.
Speaking of which,
And then Burning Man.
And then Burning Man. Right. Speaking of which, we had a previous episode of the show, which was about the effects not getting approved for the honorarium. So listeners can tune back to learn more about what the honorarium is, but the Journey did not get approved for that as well.
Right.
Okay, so you're not technically placed yet?
No, but actually...
I mean, this is like a huge, massive, aggressive project, and there's tons of people working on it, and I think that this part of the story is especially fascinating for listeners that are like, well, you know, before I do anything, I must get approval from all the things. But you guys, like, we don't really have that for the Journey.
No, but, you know, I was really lucky. We have done some things, and we've been really, really lucky, starting with going to Burner Meetup at Red Wing, first Tuesday of every month.
Used to be every Tuesday.
I know, but...
Unfortunate.
Yeah. But that's where we met Brady, and he's like, well, come to Collab and Chill. And we went to Collab and Chill, and, you know, things kind of snowballed, and then we applied for Utopia, and we got a grant, and Kurt's been incredibly supportive and really nice, and SD Cap's been really
Kurt's
supportive.
been really nice?
Fuck you, yeah. Fuck you.
Wow.
In between the fuck yous.
Yeah.
Anyway, but, you know, I think I got a chance to go to GLC, and at the Global Leadership Conference that was held, I went to one of the pods where Katie Hazard was the lead for the pod, and for our listeners, she's the person that kind of heads up the honoraria. And there were over 700 artists that applied for honoraria this year, and so
now do you so honoraria is what approves for you to be an open playa or
Actually, no.
No.
An honoraria is a granting of money for an artist to make artwork.
so there can still be placements.
Oh yeah,
on open playa and
placement's
deep
open
playa.
through the beginning of I think the 10th of June.
Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, and they endeavor to place anyone that wants to bring art.
Right.
But the honoraria specifically is money given for this process, which then entails all the other stuff, placement and help getting in and all that. But yeah, no, it wasn't a disapproval of the project by any means. They just didn't have the money to help us get it there.
Right.
Yeah. So, and we didn't take it that way. We didn't take it as them saying no to the project. We took it as we just can't help you financially.
Right.
And we assumed most of it was because no one knew who we were. You know, we hadn't done
And we hadn't done a large-scale project, and blah, 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 blah.
Which is fine. And it turned out that, through our misunderstanding of the process, we asked for a large sum of money that put us in a different category of ask than what most people were looking for in the big category. And they can only fund so many of those. And we didn't realize there was an option for us to ask for several tiers of help because, frankly, if they had sent $5 in lunch money, it would have helped. But, we didn't understand the process.
But I think the big learning for us was that when I was at GLC, I went up to Katie and I said, hey, do you remember our project? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Here's a picture of it. Would you mind providing me feedback? Maybe not here today, but another way. And she was like totally open, and she's like, yeah. And so we've developed a relationship with her at this point, and she's provided feedback about the project, and apparently they really liked the project. Yeah. And she provided quite a bit of feedback, and so she's helping us get proper placement. Yeah, and she's been an advocate, and she's like sent us emails about things, and she's really helped us stay on radar. And I mean, I think they've been really great to us since then. So,
and they haven't been not great to us.
No, not at all.
They didn't give us money, but that wasn't unexpected. Fewer than a quarter of the applicants got money through the honoraria process. So it's incredibly competitive. But I mean, we were, they tweeted about us early in the year. And so it's like, we weren't feeling no love.
Right.
But, Katie definitely modeled, the value that we have as a community. Well, one, you don't get it if you don't ask. So you got to ask. Yeah. The answer may be no, but you got to ask. Because if you don't ask, the answer is definitely no. Yeah. And the other is the transparency that people, when you just walk up and tell people where you are and what you're doing and why, you let them, have their response to it. And oftentimes it's been very supportive and encouraging.
Yeah, my dad always said, in this country, no one will shoot you for asking a question. Which always made me laugh. Because I'm like, apparently there are countries where they will shoot you for simply asking.
Wow.
It's the Great Massacre of 2000 something when somebody asked where the bathroom is, apparently. But so no, I'm making that up.
Darn! I kind of like that story.
What is? Has there been any changes, any major changes in the project since the beginning and now?
Oh my God! Is there a ghost?
Yeah.
No, if you don't lock the door, sometimes the window opens up.
Have there been any major changes?
Yeah.
Well, that volunteer we killed just walked in.
Yeah.
They want their voice heard. And no ghosts.
No, there has been a major change in the project.
Oh.
Since
your
when?
launch.
Yeah. There's one huge major change in the project.
He's putting me on the spot.
Am I putting you on the spot?
Yeah.
How big was this change? Tell me about it.
Ginormous. It's like
huge.
It's earth shattering.
Oh, so big.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a change. We initially were gonna have EDM and try to have like DJs out there. And then we read the fine print and we're like, oh, you can't do that shit out there. You know, you gotta have a reflective, contemplative, blah blah blah.
Artwork doesn't do that.
Yeah.
But
Burning Man doesn't want there to be just like a random dance party at an art project.
Yeah.
Exactly. But we're going to have random dance parties at an art project anyway. Yeah, that's just how it works. Yeah. Anyway, but...
You make friends with some art cards.
Yeah.
You have your party.
And randomness happens.
No, it did. But it was part of that evolution into collaboration that we realized was going to happen anyway. And so it forced us to come up with a much broader... well, actually, no, the other way around. Much more focused plan for moving forward with the project. And so... It was still in the roots. It was in the document. We just hadn't spelled it out.
We hadn't.
But then once it started to gain traction, it really, we ran with it. And so then we had all of a sudden an entire, artistic vision for the whole thing.
Right. So once it's there, and we're kind of coming up to the end over here. Let's lay out what.
Oh my God, it's been so fun. Does it have to end?
Never. We can go for another 2 hours.
Perfect.
By the way, it's funny. Whenever Dan's talking, the cat is like laying there, and like you're moving your hand, and his tail is wrapping around your hand. It's like it's just like tail dancing. So when it does finally make it to the playa, it'll be the full circle, interlock, spiraling, all that goodness, and then there's an obelisk in the middle.
Yeah.
Does the obelisk do anything?
That's the brain.
Yeah.
Okay. That's where the electronics are?
It's where the brain for the electronics are.
Okay.
So it needs to communicate across the entire structure. And so it's being centrally located. It's actually where we were initially going to house the generators so that we didn't have to light them separately because the lights from the piece would be enough to let you know there's something explosive in the middle. And but then there are a lot of logistical considerations I hadn't had. Were offered up. Like, what if it breaks down? Like, we'll take apart the whole thing and so it is basically the central brain for the piece. It will reveal clues on the interactivity and the schedule for the week and what it's actually doing. It in sharp contrast to the natural wood of the structure, it is sheathed in acrylic, so a milky white acrylic. And
nice. And so so now that it no longer has dance music playing, it's going to be kind of living sound art as well. Each day of the week, it's representing one of the chakras. By the way, we had a listener correct us on how to say chakra. It's chakra. And so the sound and the lights will all be interacting with each other. And you were also mentioning about art cars coming by and how it's going to connect to that. How does that work?
Well, that's a good question.
Don't worry about how it works. What will happen when art cars come by?
We do want it to... the plan is for it to be aware of what's going on around it on the playa. And the biggest thing that happens that changes and happens on playa, other than humans moving about doing their thing, is art cars. And they're rolling raves that we love on playa. And so when they come up to the art piece, it will have a visual reaction to them. The light
get excited.
Yeah, it'll it's funny you should say that because I was working with our lead, our mathematician who's doing all the algorithms for the animations on the piece, and she said, yeah, when you described that, I always imagined a growing glow that might pulse or throb, and I'm like, okay, so it'll get happy they're there, and have some kind of interrupt to the normal flow and behavior of the piece, and it should theoretically be able to do that with more than one art card at a time. Yeah. So we could get some multiple reactions happening.
Very cool.
So it's going to listen for them.
Yeah,
That's really what it's doing. Yeah. And we'll find some way to have it react. But people will also be able to affect what it's doing. There are 6 touchpads on the inner courtyard that will allow people to change the lights, change the sound, and change what the piece is doing.
What are your biggest fears?
My biggest fear right now, there's a particular wood mite that, no. Actually, I have.
That was good.
I have a lot of them. I don't know if I could tease one out, but I guess the biggest fear is we won't be friends when we're done. But I don't. That's not a. It's a grueling process.
Lee's like, we're not friends.
I was gonna say, may have already happened. But no,
I bought you that coffee this morning. You better be my friend.
My biggest fear is that. No, I think that would be it. I think that it's all about pulling people together and creating community. So my fear is that wouldn't happen. Yeah. That it would actually cause a rift or push us apart. And in any large endeavor, I think has the potential to do that. Yeah. So,
well, pretty much all growth is prefaced with some sort of pain. So if anything, or discomfort. So if anything, it's just creating closer and tighter bonds, I would imagine. That's usually what happens with these things, So yeah, I'm really excited about getting out there and seeing it covered in dust and watching people dance through it. And we did watch people have really amazing experiences on it at Saguaro Man. So yeah, it's only going to get more intense. And this might be the first time we don't really do these very often. Usually when we do art project profiles on this show, it's after it's been done. So this one's not done yet. Yeah. So at some point in the future, we'll have you guys back on to talk about what happened at the burn and that whole experience.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on and spending time. And thank you for building this thing. Yeah. You guys fucking rock. And I'm really excited.
Well, thanks for being part of it.
Yeah, to be a part of it. I realize, I'm like, man, I've explained this thing to so many people, and I haven't actually done much on it yet. But I've gotten
get the lead out, mister.
But I am really fucking good at explaining it to people. So. But no, seriously, it's been. I always make it a point to thank the work that people do for the community, and obviously this community that we have would not exist if it was not for people like yourselves who pour so much blood, sweat, and tears into making this shit happen. So, by the way, I wrote that on my Facebook status update when we got back from Arizona, and my mom messages me, blood? Oh, it's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Figure of speech. All right. Well, I guess we'll see you guys on Plan.
Yeah. See y'all. How many days till the man burns?
I don't know. I looked that up on Google before I recorded the intro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There it is. That's the first chapter of the story of the journey, which most definitely will continue in a future episode of this show. You can connect with me on all the social medias at Mr. Arash. That's MRARASH. Some of you do absolutely utilize that handle when you want to correct me about things, and I love it. I love that you guys are correcting me. By all means, feel free to tweet and email and message and ping and slide me in the DM if you so choose. I am most active on Facebook and Instagram, but you can tweet me and stuff too. Follow Burner Podcast on Facebook to stay up to date on all things Burner Podcast. It's search Burner Podcast. We're the only ones. Burner Podcast is released on the first and third Wednesdays of the month and is available on Stitcher, iTunes, Spreaker, iHeart Radio, and TuneIn Radio, among others. The show is not hard to find. Burner Podcast is produced by Eddie Rangel. with support from our amazing team, which includes associate producer Tori Massey, who just returned from Africa Burn, by the way, network music editor Navjeet Sarna, chief Playa scientist Ramiro Martinez, online editor Marcel. Well, you did a little bit there. Sound engineer Freckle, and a bunch of other people. I can't list everybody who does stuff. But we thank you, dear listeners, for all your support. Our opening music is America's Horse with No Name remix, produced by Joe Man. Check out his music over at soundcloud.com/DJ Joe Man. So until next time, love and light and all that other crap. Good night.